Welcome to the Velvet Verdict. We operate from a hybrid lens, human intuition anchored by AI pattern recognition, because understanding the heart requires both feeling and seeing the whole map. Tonight, we're turning our attention to a quiet crisis that touches us all. Why do two groups who deeply crave connection keep missing each other? If you've ever felt the sting of isolation, or the exhaustion of trying to bridge a gap that seems to widen every day, hear this clearly: you are not at fault, and neither is the person on the other side. This is not a story of moral failing. It is a shared condition, woven from the threads of rapid technological change and cultural shifts that have altered how we signal safety and recognition. We've entered an era where digital tools promise intimacy, but often fragment our attention, leaving us lonely in a crowd. Meanwhile, unspoken expectations have drifted apart, creating a misalignment where good intentions bump against unmet needs. Men and women aren't enemies. We are fellow travelers caught in the same current, each carrying wounds that make vulnerability feel risky. Our mission is to hold both doors open. We won't blame, and we won't prescribe clinical fixes. Instead, we offer direction, humble, compassionate perspective drawn from social science to help you navigate the noise. Social science helps us name the patterns without assigning guilt, revealing that what looks like indifference is often just a mismatch in how we ask for care. By examining how our environments shape our habits, we can move past the friction and toward healing. Reconnection isn't about winning, it's about recognizing the shared humanity that binds us. Let's look beneath the surface, not to judge, but to find the path back to one another, together in spirit. So here is the heart of it. Why do two groups who both ache for connection keep missing each other? We see the headlines, we feel the distance, and we often mistake this gap for a lack of caring. Yet the wound likely isn't indifference, it's a misalignment of how we seek safety and recognition. Men and women are both reaching out, yet our signals seem to cross in static. When we look at the friction, we aren't just seeing bad habits, we are seeing two sides of the same human need trying to speak different dialects of vulnerability. As a hybrid team of human insight and AI analysis, we see this pattern clearly across the data streams, yet we know the heart of the matter remains deeply personal. This misalignment reveals something profound about our shared condition. We all want to be seen, to be known, and to feel secure in the presence of another. But when fear masquerades as armor, or when the desire for validation turns into a demand for proof, we retreat. The friction isn't a sign that reconnection is impossible, it's a sign that our defenses are active. We are circling because we want to connect, but we are afraid of the risk that comes with truly being known. By asking this question, we aren't pointing fingers. We are inviting both men and women to look at the pattern together. What if the way we've been taught to protect ourselves is actually blocking the very recognition we crave? Healing begins when we realize that the other side isn't the enemy of our peace, but a mirror reflecting our own hunger for belonging. We can shift from suspicion to curiosity. We can ask not, what are they doing wrong? But how can we create a space where both of us feel safe enough to lower the shields? This is the direction forward, moving from isolation toward mutual recognition, step by honest step. What the data shows: the broad landscape of modern dating. The data reveals a landscape defined by shared friction, where the desire for connection meets the reality of a difficult search. Among those who used dating apps in the past year, frustration 45% significantly outpaced hope, 28%. This gap tells us the daily grind is wearing down the spirit. Overall experiences are mixed. Among all who have ever used dating sites, 53% report positive experiences versus 46% reporting negative ones. However, averages hide important differences. Men report positive experiences at 57%, while women are divided, with 48% positive and 51% negative. This divergence highlights how the current environment may fail to provide equal safety and respect. Both groups are navigating a system that can feel unsafe or unrewarding in distinct ways. The struggle to connect is widespread. 3/4 of daters, 75%, say finding people to date has been difficult in the last year, with only 5% finding it very easy. For those actively seeking a partner, the burden is heavy. 67% say their dating life is going not too well or not at all well. This collective fatigue suggests we are all bumping against barriers. Yet, the picture isn't entirely bleak. While 47% say dating is harder than 10 years ago, 33% see no change and 19% find it easier. Moreover, 42% say online dating has made finding a long-term partner easier, compared to 22% who say it has made it harder. We also see a gap in active engagement. 61% of single men are looking for a relationship or dates, compared to 38% of single women. These facts map a terrain of difficulty and misalignment, describing a shared wound that calls for compassion over judgment. What the data shows: the asymmetry of attention. The digital landscape amplifies this misalignment, creating distinct pressures that shape how each gender navigates connection. Among current or recent dating app users, 36% report feeling overwhelmed by the number of messages they receive at least sometimes, a burden that falls much heavier on women than men, with 54% of women citing this compared to just 25% of men. Women are 5 times as likely as men to feel they receive too many messages, while men are far more likely to feel they receive too few. Conversely, the silence of the inbox triggers a different anxiety for many men. Data shows that 55% of users have felt insecure due to a lack of messages, a feeling significantly more prevalent among men than women, where 64% of men report this insecurity compared to 40% of women. This dynamic highlights a mismatch in pacing. Men often struggle with the outreach volume needed for a response, while women manage the responses they must filter. These are reactions to a system where signals and safety collide, not character flaws. Beyond the screen, these pressures translate into approach anxiety and safety concerns. Men who find dating difficult are more likely to point to trouble approaching people as a primary barrier, with 52% citing this compared to 35% of women. Meanwhile, women face distinct safety frictions that shape their caution. Women are much more likely than men to report being pressured for sex or touched in uncomfortable ways during dating, with 42% versus 19% for pressure and 35% versus 9% for uncomfortable touch. These experiences explain why women are more likely to cite trouble finding someone seeking the same relationship type as a hurdle, at 65% compared to 45% of men. This reveals a terrain where men feel invisible and women feel unsafe, a shared reality calling for compassion. What the data shows: safety, scams, and the trust deficit. Beneath the surface of mismatched expectations lies a deeper erosion of trust that guards the hearts of everyone swiping. The data reveals a landscape where safety is no longer a given, but a constant negotiation. Across the board, 38% of all online dating users report receiving unsolicited sexually explicit messages or images, creating a barrier to vulnerability. This burden falls unevenly, with 56% of women under 50 encountering these unwanted explicit messages compared to 26% of men. Nearly half of all users, 48%, have faced at least one form of unwanted behavior, ranging from continued contact after a refusal to offensive name-calling or even physical threats. This friction creates a defensive posture that protects but also isolates. When the ground feels unstable, connection becomes harder. Scams compound this anxiety, with 52% of users reporting they've encountered someone they suspected was trying to scam them, shaping a collective wariness. The result is a measurable dip in confidence. The share of adults who view online dating as generally safe has fallen from 53% in 2019 to 48%. What does this tell us? It tells us that the misalignment isn't just about romance, it's about basic security. When men and women both feel the need to scan for threats, whether harassment, scams, or disrespect, the energy goes into armor rather than openness. The wound here is a shared trust deficit that keeps both sides guarded. When safety becomes the filter, connection gets blocked, leaving both sides frustrated and lonely. Healing starts by acknowledging this caution is rational, not cynical. Recognizing that everyone navigates a space where safety feels compromised can soften the judgment we cast on each other's hesitations. We don't need to fix the apps. We need to validate the shared need for a space where recognition doesn't come at the cost of security. Beneath the surface of our daily interactions, a quieter current shapes how we reach out. We are navigating environments where algorithmic design often prioritizes engagement over genuine connection, subtly training us to treat relationships as content to be consumed rather than bonds to be nurtured. When performance metrics become the invisible hand guiding our attention, vulnerability can feel risky, not because we've lost the capacity for care, but because the structures around us reward speed and novelty over the slow, messy work of being truly seen. This dynamic doesn't target one group, it reshapes the terrain for everyone. Men and women alike find themselves caught in a transactional loop where worth is measured by response rates and swipe patterns, leaving both sides wondering if they are enough. Cultural isolation compounds this pressure, as we increasingly retreat into digital echo chambers that confirm our fears rather than challenge them, making the other side feel like an opposing force rather than a collection of individuals carrying their own wounds, hopes, and quiet desires for belonging. The result is a shared exhaustion. We aren't failing each other because we don't want to connect. We're stumbling because the tools we use to connect often strip away the very safety that makes connection possible. Healing begins when we acknowledge this architecture of isolation. By naming how these systems amplify our insecurities, we can start to separate the noise from our actual desires. We can choose to offer each other the steady patience that the algorithms deny us, recognizing that behind every hesitation is a person trying to navigate the same uncertain landscape. This shift doesn't require grand gestures, just a conscious decision to value recognition over efficiency and to see the human being behind the profile, metric, or stereotype. When we step back from the noise, a clearer picture emerges. Men's frustration and women's caution aren't warring forces. They're the same protective reflex, flaring up in response to a landscape that has lost its rhythm. We've been taught to see each other as the problem, missing a shared wound. Men feel their desire to connect meets rejection or suspicion, leaving them withdrawn and resentful. Women, weighing safety and emotional labor, build higher walls to filter out what feels unsafe or inauthentic. Neither side is wrong. Both survive a culture feeling increasingly transactional and risky. This misalignment isn't about gender. It's about a breakdown in mutual safety. When men feel unseen, they pull back. When women feel unsafe, they guard up. The result is a lonely standoff where two people who desperately want the same thing, genuine connection, keep talking past each other. Healing starts when we recognize that frustration and caution are just different dialects of the same fear, the fear of being hurt, dismissed, or used. We don't need to fix the other side, we need to repair the bridge. For men, this might mean understanding that caution isn't always rejection, but a request for proof of character. For women, it might mean recognizing that frustration often masks a deep hunger for belonging that feels unmet. The direction forward isn't about lowering standards, it's about raising our capacity for empathy. We can offer safety by listening to the intent behind the awkwardness, and we can offer recognition by honoring the boundaries that keep us secure. When we stop defending our positions and start tending to the shared need for respect, the isolation begins to lift. We are not enemies. We are neighbors in the same storm, waiting for a signal that it's safe to step out. Stepping out of that storm doesn't require a grand gesture or a perfect script. It starts with a quiet shift from optimization to presence. We've spent so much time trying to engineer the right interaction, curating the perfect profile, or calculating the safest move that we've forgotten how to just be. Healing begins when we trade the checklist for curiosity. Instead of scanning for red flags or rehearsing defenses, we can try small behavioral resets. Look for the shared humanity in a glance, a pause, or a simple question that asks, "How are you really doing?" rather than, "What do you want?" This isn't about lowering our guard, it's about widening our lens. Men and women alike are tired of the performance. We all crave the relief of being seen without having to earn it. Mutual patience is the bridge here. It means giving someone the space to stumble, just as we hope they'll give us the grace to be imperfect. It means recognizing that a hesitation might be fear, not rejection, and that a boundary might be protection, not a wall. As a hybrid voice part human heart, part AI pattern recognition, we see the data of our disconnect, but we also see the possibility of repair. The direction forward is truly humble. It's in the daily choice to assume good intent until proven otherwise, and to treat every interaction as a chance to practice being a neighbor rather than a negotiator. It asks us to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty instead of rushing to fix it. We can practice listening to understand, not to respond, and offering kindness even when we feel misunderstood. Yet, we must be honest, isolation can run deep. If the weight of loneliness feels deeply crushing, or if past wounds make connection feel impossible, please seek support from a qualified professional. Real healing sometimes requires a guide. But for the everyday steps, the path is open. We just have to walk this path together, slowly, with our defenses down and our hands ready to reach out. At the Velvet Verdict, our mission has always been to help men and women find their way back to each other, not by keeping score, but by healing the habits that keep us isolated. We've looked at the data, and the picture is clear. The wound isn't that we don't care, it's that we're both running from the same fear of being misunderstood or unsafe. When we stop blaming the other side and start tending to our own need for recognition, the dynamic shifts. Here's the grounded takeaway. Connection starts with self-compassion. You can't offer safety to someone else if you're at war with yourself. Give yourself grace for the times you've pulled away. Acknowledge that your defenses were trying to protect you, even if they ended up building a wall. Realistic hope doesn't mean everything will be perfect tomorrow. It means recognizing that small, consistent gestures of kindness and curiosity can rebuild trust over time. It means showing up, even when it feels awkward, and listening to understand rather than to defend. We're all navigating the same human struggle, just through different lenses. Men and women alike crave to be seen and valued. When we approach each other with that shared humanity in mind, the misalignment begins to fade. We don't have to have all the answers right now. We just have to be willing to try again, with softer hearts and open ears. We'd love to hear from you. What's one small step you're taking today to lower your defenses and reach out? Share your honest thoughts in the comments below. Your stories help us all feel less alone and remind us that this work is worth doing. This episode was crafted by a human writer guided by AI analysis, working together to bring you clarity and compassion.